Vaishnavas say that the process of surrender involves the one who's surrendering, that's the Sharanagata, and the one who's being surrendered unto. And the four ministers represent these two groups. The one who is surrendering and the one who's being surrendered unto. So listen carefully. This is their commentary. Akinchanatvam. We know what the word akinchana means. I possess nothing. So tvam is the quality of possessing nothing. I possess nothing which I view as my shelter. I possess nothing which I view as my shelter. Akinchanatvam. That's from the side of the one who's taking shelter. Nothing. Akinchana. Nothing. That's my shelter. And ananya gatitvam. Ananya gati. Since I have nowhere else to go to take shelter, I fully repose my shelter, taking spirit in the Sharanya, the person giving me shelter. So, in one sense, this is, one is negative, the other is positive, but you could have the negative without the positive. Ananya gati tvam. My exclusive shelter is Lord Ramachandra. My exclusive shelter is Lord Vishnu. My exclusive shelter is Krishna. And I have no other shelter. That's the side of the Sharanagata, the one who's taking shelter. Now, what's the qualification of the one who one is taking shelter of? That's called the Sharanya. This is a nice word. Saralata. Saralata is he gives shelter to anyone without consideration of who they are. I could spend a lot of time on this, saralata. This is a word that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur uses in describing the foremost quality of a Brahmana. What's the foremost quality of a Brahmana? Saralata. What's that simplicity? What's simplicity for the Brahmana? The simplicity for a Brahmana is straightforwardness. This is Bhaktisiddhanta speaking on this topic, not in relation to the personality of God or the place of surrender. It's what he's using as Bhaktisiddhanta is using as the quality of a Brahmana. Quality of a Brahmana is he knows Brahman. And he's taking shelter of one who has simplicity. So from both sides, the quality is the same. The quality of the one taking shelter, the quality of the one receiving and giving shelter. And that is anyone. Certainly, this was exemplified over and over again by Lord Ramachandra. He said specifically, when Ravana surrendered, when Vibhisana surrendered, he said, even now, if Ravana would come and take shelter of me, even after that he has done, kidnapped Sita, etc., if he fell at my feet, I would. What to speak of bears and monkeys and squirrels and you name it. Anyone who takes shelter of Lord Ramachandra or one who takes shelter of the personality of Godhead, that's his simplicity, without any consideration of who they are. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we just recently observed the appearance day of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and same with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Jagai and Madhai, he accepted them. Oh, what an amazing, not only he accepted them, but he completely cleansed them by their taking shelter of him. So that's the second part. Sharalata is simplicity, and Shakti. And Shakti is the the person unto whom one surrenders should have the Shakti or power to deliver that person and give the protection that's promised, just like he said, you'll be freed from fear. Let's go back to that understanding, free from fear. What does free from fear mean? Or what's fear? What does fear mean? Fear has everything to do with the bodily conception of life. Say it the other way. One who has the bodily conception of life, according to the Bhagavatam, is certain to have fear. Bhayam, dutiyam, abhiniveshitak syat. Bhayam is fear. And one will have fear as long as one is absorbed in the bodily conception of life. Say it again. As long as you have the bodily conception of life, you're going to have fear. It's just part of having, so fearing, eating, sleeping, mating, and fearing. Having a body, there's fear. So what do you do? How do you become fearless? Get rid of your body? Get out a paring knife and scrape it off, and you don't have a body anymore. Now you're fearless. It's identification with the body. It's absorption in the bodily conception of life. What Ram is saying to make someone fearless is he relieve them from that false egoistic conception of thinking of the self in terms of the body, the covering, the body, and the mind, because mind is also a covering. How we can become fearless is right on the screen. You don't have some other shelter, and the Lord becomes your only shelter. Ananya Gati. Gati means goal or destination, or in this case, it's shelter. No other shelter. So you take full shelter of the one with no other shelters. In the morning classes, we've been reading Uddhava Gita. Uddhava Gita is, of course, spoken by Krishna to Uddhava. It could say Bhagavad Gita Part 2 because it's Bhagavan speaking. But it's Uddhava Gita because he asks all these nice questions. And the sense of the first 3 chapters of Uddhava Gita is the same as this, what you see on the screen. That is, letting go of other shelters. That is, attachment to the sources of misery. Not misery, but the sources of misery. What's the source of misery? Attachment to the temporary. The affinity of trying to be the enjoyer of the temporary, and thus attachment. Because I want to enjoy, and that's my field of enjoyment. So attached to the idea of trying to squeeze some pleasure out of the temporary. Now, when Vibhisana left, we find out that Vibhisana didn't even say Hari Bol to his wife. He didn't say, I'm leaving to go take shelter of Ram. His wife was okay. His wife was exalted like he was. She understood. She was safe. She was protected. She became the future queen as he became the future king. After Lord Ramachandra accepted, here's the image, Lord Ramachandra accepted Vibhisana, with everyone surrounding. His ministers were also accepted. The Lakshman accepted. Everyone accepted. He even went further as to crown Vibhisana the king right there in Tirupalani. A full consecration. You're the next king. Even before Ravana is dead, it was already established. It was done again later, but it was already an accepted fact. Ram had no interest in the kingdom. Ram had interest in virtue. And here's a suitable person, a virtuous person, who was dutifully in the service of his brother, but fearlessly, and one could say foolishly, but fearlessly speaking the truth, virtuous truth to his brother. And virtuous truth to a person like Ravana just makes them angry. Sure enough, he became very angry at hearing the truth.